Messi was given a beautiful country, South Africa, one of the most developed countries on this continent, and yet it seems they made it their mission to destroy all of that.
Breaking news. BRICS has just changed the world game, which could destroy the economy of the U.S., and the Trump is already crying. Let's break down the facts. BRICS has now officially grown into a powerful group of 21 countries, creating a big shift in global influence. Also, BRICS has passed the G7 in economic size and making up 40% of the world's GDP, while the G7 now makes up less than 29%. As BRICS gets stronger, its members are trading more with each other and relying less on the U.S. for exports. In reaction to this, Donald Trump said he would place 100% tariffs on any country that joins BRICS, but many say it's already too late. Even the trade between BRICS countries has already passed $1 trillion, showing how strong their connection is. Moreover, BRICS is also working on launching a BRICS physical currency where one brick is equal to 24 US dollars. And now, 159 countries are planning to use BRICS' new payment system, which could reduce the world's dependence on the US dollar. This is a major change, and the world is watching closely. Stay ahead. Stay informed.
The Post claims that the U.S. Treasury recently bought back $2 billion of its own long-term bonds, which it describes as a sign of financial distress. The writer argues that this means there's little outside demand for U.S. debt and that the government is propping up the system by purchasing its own bonds, a move they call shadow QE, quantitative easing. They interpret this as evidence that the financial system, and what they call the deep state, is close to collapse. It then shifts into a political and conspiratorial message, saying the buyback proves Trump was right about debt being dangerous, and calls on readers to wake up, spread the message, and prepare for a major financial or political upheaval. It ends by promoting Benjamin Fulford, a conspiracy influencer, and suggesting he's revealing secret information about global elites. In short, this is a highly emotional, politically charged post mixing real economic news, treasury bond buybacks, with conspiracy claims about a collapsing deep state.
A treasury bond buyback means the U.S. government is repurchasing some of its older bonds before they mature. It's a normal financial tool used to manage debt, similar to refinancing a loan. The Treasury does this to keep the bond market liquid, adjust the mix of short and long-term debt, or smooth out trading in older securities. These programs have existed before and are not secret or unusual.
General Mkwanazi, this man will be for a long time in the news. Make no mistake. He's not a messiah. But he knows. He knows where the bodies are buried. He knows what's happening. General Masemola, the Commissioner of Police, returned 121 dockets to General Mkwanazi's unit, which were removed by General Sibia on instruction of General Masemola. And suddenly, Firoz Kashalia, the temporary, acting, whatever you want to call it, Minister of Police, says they're not happy. And then he says, but Cyril Ramaphosa, 9 wasted years, Ramaphosa had told him to get the dockets back. He's not happy about it. Why? The old saying goes, kick a dog and the owner comes running. What incriminates Cyril Ramaphosa? Where is he incriminated? And then they're starting a psychological operation against General Mkwanazi. The commission of inquiry, which was supposed to start on 1 September, didn't start because the logistics were not in place. 2 officials in the Department of Justice had been suspended. It's part of the plan. Psychological warfare, obfuscate and create confusion, create uncertainty, and enter Paul O'Sullivan. Paul O'Sullivan will call Mkwanazi a crook. No. Paul O'Sullivan is the crook. In 2013, in a court case, he was interdicted and he was forced to apologize as well as to pay the cost in a legal matter with Neil Diamond, who's now in America. We'll come to Neil Diamond a bit later. He's not a shining angel. Any case, Paul O'Sullivan sent him an email, "You scum, I will come for you." And then he rocks up at Diamond's office, where the meeting is recorded. And basically what he says, he's trying to extort money from Diamond in a liquidation matter. Diamond goes to court to interdict him. The judge says the following: O'Sullivan is a danger to the community in his self-belief as vigilante, and yet nobody does anything. The judge says, how come that O'Sullivan's senior counsel takes instructions from him and not from the attorney? Good question. Sullivan gets op sy moer. That is how Neil de Beer would have put it. Hy het op sy moer gekry. He really got whacked. Now it's very interesting. I go and I sit and I look at a lot of things. Paul O'Sullivan claims he's taken out all these corrupt policemen. They all link up to drugs. What has Paul O'Sullivan done? He's taken out the opposition. Marshal van Rooij writes WhatsApps and says, but now your drug operations have taken a big beating because Andre Nudier and Mark Liffman is dead. And Van Rooij writes, he says, but O'Sullivan had me 4 times in court pertaining to what I've written. And he couldn't one time come up with any evidence. Evidence for what? Saying he's not a drug lord? No. It seems there are facts. There's truth to the matter. And Paul O'Sullivan says, the best president ever, Cyril, 9 wasted years, Ramaphosa. Eish, there's so many things you can call him. Cupcake, 9 wasted years, useless, spineless, thief, thug. Carry on. And so Sullivan links up to him. What happens? At the Zondo Commission of Inquiry into State Capture, O'Sullivan vouches for Andile Ramaphosa, Cyril Ramaphosa's son, that he's not involved in state capture, which is bullshit. He was part and parcel squarely involved. So what makes O'Sullivan so powerful that he can do these things? He can access Home Affairs computers over a weekend. Nogal. Paul O'Sullivan. I've still got affidavits I've got to read about him, on what he's been involved in. Australian citizen, Irish citizen, and now South African citizenship. Why the hell do we tolerate him? Why is the authorities tolerating him? Throw him out, kick him out. Act 12 of 2004, Prevention and Combating of Corrupt Activities, Section 34. If you suspect anything like this, you must report it. To what extent is O'Sullivan involved? In the newspaper clipping, where he stands with the best reservist constable, Cyril Ramaphosa, and the trophy he hands him, It's very interesting. Paul O'Sullivan stands there. Not the station commander, where Cyril Ramaphosa is supposedly involved in for reservist duties. How come Paul O'Sullivan is so important? He overrides the generals. He overrides the cluster commanders. He's a force on his own. When General Mkwanazi says there's a big drug network in Gauteng which controls a criminal network which has infiltrated the government, the state structures, which has captured the organizations. Is this what he's referring to? Paul O'Sullivan? Paul O'Sullivan linking back to Cyril Ramaphosa? I'm asking questions. Paul O'Sullivan is a crook. Why Alex Hogg give him the time of day, I do not know. Paul O'Sullivan has got a checkered history. In 2006, Boko Haram from Nigeria was trained at Mossel Bay in the Southern Cape. Did you know that? They were trained in the Southern Cape. The drug lords from Nigeria was frequenting Cape Town. They came in with suitcases full of dollars, and it said that Paul O'Sullivan was carrying the suitcases full of dollars for them to make sure there's no problems. He was the head of security. Mwabise Kalawe was responsible for Cape Town Airport. A solid man if ever I met one. But Paul O'Sullivan was running the security. It's a small world, isn't it? People are talking about the cartel. What about the black cartels? Tell me about the black cartels. Vusimusi Katmatlala, for sure part of the black cartel. And Becky Kele and the dishonorable member Mkunu, who lays a charge of the Hawks against Taylor, Anton Taylor, the comedian, for publishing a TikTok where he acts like a Czech criminal, stating how many money was flowing towards Nkunu and asking questions. And it's defined as, and it is called crimes against the state. Crimes against the state? Are you crazy? Since when is Nkunu the state? He's only an organ. He's an office bearer. And those idiots from the Hawks that executed it, they should all be put against a wall immediately, not even questioned. The magistrates who signed off on the warrants, they should all be called to book. I know. I was there. Crimes against the state, they called it. And it wasn't a charge, it was an inquiry. An inquiry, because what do the Hawks do? Hawks work on the basis that you are guilty until proven innocent. Huh? What? What happened to innocence until proven guilty? Oh yeah, that's only for the criminals. Like the people around Cyril Ramaphosa. It's only for them. Everybody else are guilty until proven innocent. And tell me, General Bia from the Hawks, what was he doing in Mauritius not too long ago? On holiday? And he went hunting as well. Hey, Wena, he went hunting. He's supposed to be hunting criminals. And with whom did he go? They say it was a drug lord. General Mkwanazi has got the bull by the horns. He knows what's happening. He knows the truth. Because what happens? There you see already in Standard Bank, a manager who appeared in court on 18 million rands worth of drug fraud. The drug cartel, the black cartel, the white cartel. Paul O'Sullivan acts like a god. He thinks he can walk on oil, not water, on oil. You know, oil is very slippery. Hey, one misstep and you go down. Paul O'Sullivan wants to call General Mkwanazi a crook. Let's keep an open mind. Anyone could have made any mistakes anywhere. But does that make them a crook? If we look at what's happening in the government employee pension fund, it's $1 billion here, it's $1 billion there. The government administration agency for pensions, 500 million rand on a so-called tender to a company who doesn't even have directors. Mkwanazi paying for the ex-CEO of IDT, paying towards a house, and then trying to bribe a journalist, Peter Louis Myburg, with 60,000 rand, and then trying to deny it, and then trying to gag him as well. Daily Maverick is a very good, how shall we call it, Pony Express, Pony newspaper. They have a guy there, Micah Reddy, at the Daily Maverick. Micah Reddy sits on the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists. Micah Reddy came to see me way back about the first consult report. I gave him everything. I went to his house off Barry Hertzog Road in Johannesburg. He wrote the article saying, on the rattles exported to Jordan, the 320, he said that it was Zuma. Zuma wasn't even in the area at that stage. It was all Thabo Mbeki, Moletsi Mbeki. But they wanted to nail Zuma left, right, center. And when I wrote and when I stood up and said, you are talking nonsense, what happens? Silence. And now suddenly he appears again. This is a prostitute. Micah Reddy is a fifth force. Micah Reddy is a criminal with the way he's acting. Micah Reddy should be disbarred as a journalist, even for children's literature. Amazing, isn't it? And then we have the creme de la scum, Julius Malema. He gets clobbered in the Equality Court for hate speech by Millie Wesley, a brunette there from Cape Town, who's acting on behalf of Dante van Wyk. And the judge quite correctly says, this is hate speech. You said to kill people, you must kill people, you must kill white people for the revolution. What people don't know, in the murder of Eugene Terblanche, not that I hold any candles for him, in his murder, the police, when they investigated this young guy, when Eugene Terblanche was lying there with his legs open, this guy hit him with a dropper, a metal pole, which is used in fencing, so hard that his testicles burst. And he told the police he was going to become president because Julius Malema said if he killed Terblanche, he would become president. Whether Malema said it or not, this was the perception in this guy's mind. The moment he felt that he had been slighted, he killed Ter Blanche. And it was kept from the press because the situation was very tense. En Julius Malema het nou weer op sy moer gekry. At long last. At long last, the stormtrooper of several 9 wasted years, Ramaphosa, got clobbered. I hope Millie Wesley carries on and she nails it. But what happens here? AfriForum, Solidarity, where are they? Where are they? Nowhere to be seen in action. Nowhere to be seen in action. It makes you wonder. It makes you wonder. And the most interesting thing, Malema uses a guy by the name of Stephen Friedman, a professor. As ugly as sin this man is, a fact. I ran into him in the 90s. He was acting on behalf of certain clients pertaining to municipal taxes, RSC levies. He didn't know his subject. And when I took him to task, he said, but you call yourself a professor? Yeah, I'm a professor at WITS. Oh, so I wrote an email and I said, listen, how come a professor at WITS is acting as a consultant in legal matters to clients? He gets a salary. Why must he get paid again? Quiet. You liberal bastards, listen to me very good. You liberal bliksems in Joburg, stand up and be counted because you are abusing people, black and white. This is the problem. The so-called liberal people. It's not the liberals that make the world work. It's the realists. Black people are calling me. Black people are victimized, left, right, and center, by their own people. There is no protection for the workers. The courts, you can't count on them. You can't count on them. Now you take Gwede Mantashe with his new mining bill. In 1 year, mining investment had dropped from 9 billion rand to 773 million rand. People are losing their jobs. What's going to happen? The military is useless. The state security agency is weaponized against the populace. The MTN saga, 505 American troops were killed. How many were injured and maimed? On the reports I had access to, 50% of all injuries and deaths in Afghanistan on American forces were caused by RPGs. And Cyril Ramaphosa was the chairperson. Now it's Mcebisi Jonas. And they have their own spy in Washington. Who's in a consultancy, who advises them, a white guy. What's happening here? For years, the Washington Embassy of South Africa proclaimed there's no farm murders. There is genocide in South Africa. There's white genocide and there's black genocide. What is happening? General Mkwanazi is the man who's going to unlock these issues if he doesn't have the answers or the knowledge of a situation, it will lead to more questions being asked, as they should be. Because all Ramaphosa and the clique is doing, they're working for the nomenclatura to the detriment of the greater populace. Hey, do you understand what I'm saying? Julle gaan almal julle gatte sien. You're going to see your asses. Don't ask me what to do. Thanks very much for the people coming towards me, reaching out. Because it's a big picture and everyone brings a piece together. And Mcebisi Jonas is central to all this. And who's going to pay for all these misdemeanors? The taxpayer? The shrinking base of taxpayers? Not because they're leaving the country, that too, but because people are losing jobs, they're losing income. Every day. General Mkwanazi must be protected at all times and in all places. People tend to talk too much. The walls have ears. Come walls, bring that information. Remember, in the Second World War, they used to have the slogan, loose lips sink ships. Bring those loose lips stories. Bring it. I know what I'll do. What are you gonna do? Run? Where to? It's the greatest thing, the biggest thing in South Africa. Not me, not Siya Kolisi, not Cyril, the major criminal Ramaphosa. How many of Cyril and his cabinet were impimpies? How many of them were working for the security branch during apartheid? Apartheid was used by the Western world to feather their nests until it became unprofitable. The 70s started the decline in economic benefits on Western investment. As long as they made money, they supported it. Verwoerd never trusted the Afrikaners. Well, the Afrikaners could never trust themselves because every Afrikaans-speaking family thought they would be the leaders in their environment. President Steyn, M.T. Steyn, was a Freemason. The Freemasonry played a big role in South Africa and still is. These days with the House of the Black Princess from London and the Freemasons out of France, where Cyril Ramaphosa resides in. Verwoerd never trusted the Afrikaners. He brought in a lot of Dutch officials in the 60s to work in the civil service. I can only say, whenever I encounter them later on, and their offspring, there was always a history behind them. Remember, the Dutch with the East Cape Trading Company, it was built on corruption and fraud. Make no mistake, the Dutch, when it comes to farming are a massive success. They develop new technologies. The Dutch, that heritage from the Dutch manifested itself in the so-called Afrikaner ranks. The old story is, if 3 Afrikaners get stranded on an island, what do? Within a week, they create a church, a commission of inquiry, and then the church breaks into 3 different churches. They can never stand together. Roof Meyer is a typical example. And they were always around F.W. de Klerk. He got a Nobel Prize for being next to Mandela. Winnie was very disgusted. She came to see me in Sunnyside, my offices. And she said, but de Klerk should never have received the Nobel Prize. De Klerk. The damage caused to this country. You must remember, it's not just the damage caused to whites, it's the damage caused to this whole country, black and white. Cyril Ramaphosa is on record apparently as saying food comes in tins. Why does he need farmers, he says. That's what Malema says. And Malema gets financed by white people. The problem is the masses that's suffering economically. They are ripe. They are ripe for indoctrination. When de Klerk and his cabinet entered CODESA for negotiations of the transition into a so-called democratic South Africa, because democracy is a farce in any case. But it's another time, another place. The ANC were already 4 to 8 years ahead in their thinking and in their strategy, because the ANC was always advised either by the Russian intelligence, by the Serbian intelligence, by MI6, by the CIA, by French intelligence. The biggest intelligence failures in this country have always been the South African intelligence services. And today, Kombutsu Nacheveni sits in Cyril's cabinet and he controls the intelligence services. The intelligence services running operations of intercepting communication. The ANC has installed a system to intercept the communication of their members in parliament, the members in the provincial structures, the members in cabinet. I wonder what Putin thinks when he interacts with Ramaphosa. Cyril Ramaphosa is really pushing the boundaries. It's not going to be the whites that fight the blacks. It's going to be the blacks that fight the blacks. When the Zulus move against the Vendas, It's going to be a bloodbath, and it's not far. It is not far. In the 18th century, the Sangoma, Mkwanazi, told the Xhosas in the Eastern Cape not to till the grounds, to kill the cattle, because the ancestral spirits will provide. In the end, thousands of them died. Cyril Ramaphosa is standing in the same light. He is killing people by his inaction, by his incompetence. But he is being manipulated by the Oppenheimers and by Johann Rupert and his cabal. Interesting enough, the story goes that there was a fight in the Oppenheimer family where Mary Slack, the sister, broke away from Nikki Oppenheimer because she couldn't stand the corruption anymore. On the Rupert side, Hanley Rupert, the opera singer, broke away from her brother Johann Rupert because she couldn't stand the corruption anymore. Is this but a fallacy? How many people of you know what I'm talking about, but you're too gutless to come forward? I'm not asking you to scream it from the balconies, but send it. Send it to me. Give me the information. Oh, be careful of the fake news. I will find you if you've got fake news. I've received many phone calls asking me, why are you not dead yet? This is a recurring theme over the years. Why have you not been shot yet? Oh, yes, I have been shot at. It has happened. You do not understand. If anything should happen to me, in 22 pods, electronically, throughout the world, a lot of information will be released, which will be of a nature which will be extremely uncomfortable for a lot of people, which will put certain wheels in motion. Presidents of countries will fall. People bring me information. People come and talk to me. So removing me from the board is not so easy. And I have extreme protection. I have my own angels protecting me. Oh yes, guardian angels there are. Working overtime, they sure are. Sounds crazy, doesn't it? But it's a fact. Because it's all by the grace of God that we exist. Whether we're white, whether we're black. Where does ISIS come from? The Israeli says every Muslim is not a terrorist, but every terrorist is a Muslim. I can only speak with the greatest of praise of Muslims. I've only been treated well by Muslims throughout the Arab world, graciously, from Ida's Valley outside of Stellenbosch, from the old Raapkraal, which is these days a Lani development in Cape Town, which used to be a squatter camp, where I used to play. The problem in South Africa is we don't know what the hell is going on. We do not know. Because we've been taught not to know. Being white doesn't mean you are entitled to anything. Being black doesn't mean you're entitled. Although there's 142 pieces of legislation that says you're entitled. You're entitled to fuck up the country. That is what happened. There was a situation for the situation to accommodate black people in business. Not the way it is today, because Professor Gomez says between 100 people, over R1 trillion on the BEE was moved around. Professor, come on, try 5 trillion. How much money went missing? 40 trillion? 40 trillion, a 40 with 12 zeros behind it. Remember, when you do calculations, you look at the cost. You look at the shadow cost. And what is a shadow cost? What could have been done with that money, which would have been to the benefit of all? Pretoria, potholes galore. Eastern Cape, the photos I've been seeing, so many potholes. Now Helen Zille wants to come and she wants to run Joburg. How are you going to run Joburg if there's no discipline? In the late 90s, I interfaced with the city of Joburg many times. And in the 2000s, the white officials became a problem. There was a guy by the name of Prick, P-R-Y-K, Prick. These corrupt officials were there all the time. They were there under the National Party. The problem is, people are talking about farm murders. They're talking about BE. Everybody has got 10 opinions. At last, AfriForum and Solidariteit has gotten their acts together to go to court. Expropriation without compensation. Dean McPherson says, it's not to worry. Where did he go to school? If it's in law, they will use it. They will abuse it. And they call it law. Why did the Nazis have death camps? Oh, the concentration camps they had was started by the British in the second Boer War, Anglo-Boer War. They just took it and they made it even more horrific. The 26,000 white women and children that died in the Boer War, in the concentration camps, the British never paid compensation. And nobody spoke about the 26,000 black women and children that died in 80 concentration camps. And we have a black government in South Africa that does nothing. And I want to call it
the nuclear bomb on Hiroshima and the European Union. These prophecies made Nostradamus one of the most famous men who ever lived. Very few people know that South Africa had its own prophet with similar gifts. His name was Mkwanazi van Rensburg. He died in 1926 at the age of 62. This is the amazing story of a simple Afrikaner who was known as Siener, the messenger of God.
A October the 22nd, 1923. In Europe, I see a boiler coming out. I see a fire exploding from its lid. A woman stands and looks to the north. Her robe is white. Then it sags downwards and she is dressed in black. September the 13th, 1914. Darkness falls. Two lights. I see a mighty engine. Smoke is pouring from it. The smoke moves up into the mountains. I see people coming across the wasteland. I see a town that becomes like nothing. These words were spoken in 1914. 70 years later, on April the 26th, 1986, Chernobyl exploded. The nuclear reactor literally blew off the lid of its boiler. The raging nuclear fire charred the white overalls of the firefighters to black as the deadly radiation ate into their bodies. The town of Pripyat, population 100,000, was evacuated in just over 4 hours. Nobody will ever live here again. The Chernobyl disaster was predicted in 1914 by a man who could scarcely read or write. December the 12th, 1917. From the north I see a great tank rolling. From the tank flows fine sheep manure. It rolls to the south and the earth becomes layered in manure. March the 30th, 1918. In Europe sits a young black boy clothed in a woman's dress. Fine manure slides off his body. Then it rolls off to the west. At first the earth is clean, then it turns and becomes covered in fine manure. I hear a voice saying to me, "Gird thy loins and let your candle burn."
My name is Opamto. I'm 29 years old. I was diagnosed HIV positive last year.
AIDS has emerged as this century's greatest scourge. It started in Africa and spread through the gay community to the Western world. It is an illness that decimates the whole body.
I hope to live like everybody else.
It came with the trucks and tankers rolling southwards to the industrial heartland of South Africa. It is spread mainly through unprotected sex. The source and spread of this terrible sickness was predicted 70 years ago by a man who could see deep into the future. His name was Nicholas van Rensburg. His friends simply called him Siener. This is his story. Who was Siener van Rensburg? How accurate have his prophecies been in the past? What did he say about the world at the turn of the millennium? What did he see for South Africa as we enter the 21st century? Born in 1864 in the district of Wolmerenstad in the West Transvaal, his full name was Nicolaas Pieter Johannes Janse van Rensburg. In this program, we will call him by the name he was commonly known as, Die Siener. It means the seer, a man who could prophesy the future. Siener was an apocalyptic prophet of his people. His visions are couched in the searing language of the prophets of the Old Testament. The images in which they came to him often match the frightening symbolism of the visions of John in the book of Revelation. His prophecies are steeped in his unshakable faith in the God of Israel, the God of the Afrikaner nation. Of himself he said, "I am only a messenger from God."
De Heere is mijn herder. Mij zal niets ontbreken.
The only book he ever read was the Bible. He read it by spelling each word separately, as he had been taught by his mother.
Aan zeer stille wateren. Hij verkwikt mijn ziel. Hij leidt mij ten het spoor der gerechtigheid.
This is the copy behind his home where, early in the mornings, he used to climb to the top. Here, alone with his Bible, he had most of his visions. In later years, he dictated what he saw to his daughter, Anna van Rensburg, Sitting in the voorkamer with her father, she wrote down the prophecies in the school exercise books of the time.
Ek sien 'n swart gordyn in die verre toekoms. Maar vir ons wat weet, sal dit nie so donker wees nie. Die Here se hand sal wees op ons volk. Ek sien die vuurkleur wapper weer. Ek sien 'n nuwe republiek.
These are the original books of Siener van Rensburg, in which she wrote down her father's visions. Here is the prophecy of the explosion at Chernobyl, as dictated by her father on the evening of October the 22nd, 1923. And on March the 30th, 1918, she wrote down Siener's vision of what scholars now believe to be AIDS. There are more than 700 recorded prophecies of Siener van Rensburg. We can only look at a fraction of them. Visions relating to the past, the present, and the future. In 1899, the darkest days in Afrikaner history rolled across the republics of the Old Transvaal and the Orange Free State. The Anglo-Boer War. Like so many other Boere, Siener left his wife and children on the farm and joined the commando of the legendary General Koos de la Rey of Lichtenburg, the Lion of the West Transvaal. It is said that Siener never carried a gun, and that he never shot anyone. He joined up to be the voice of God for the fighting Boers, always guiding, consoling, protecting. Throughout the war, his timely visions saved many commanders from being captured or killed. As the troops of Her Majesty rolled in on the railway lines from Cape Town and Durban, de la Rey's commando was camped near the village of Taung in the Northern Cape. On the night of October the 16th, 5 days after the start of the war, Siener saw a vision so terrifying it nearly drove him insane. He stumbled out into the night and was found the next morning incoherent and in shock. When he was finally brought before General de la Rey, he told him of the vision he'd had the night before. These are his own words. October the 16th, 1899. I see our men fleeing across the darkened land. I see our women and children in their hundreds and thousands bundled together. I can still hear the children crying. The women are overcome with grief and despair. And as they are chased, I see our farms and homesteads burning. A sea of fire that stretches from horizon to horizon. Everything covered in smoke and flame. It was terrible. 2 years later, the scorched earth policy of Lord Roberts resulted in more than 67,000 farms and homesteads burnt to the ground, and 26,000 women and children dead in the concentration camps. Camps that were created by the British to force the Boer fighters to surrender. This was the most infamous chapter in the history of the empire. It is said that Siener fought the Boer War twice. First on that night of October the 16th, and then during the 3 years that followed. 2 of his daughters died in the death camp at Mafeking. The youngest was only 5 years old. Death. It was the prophecy of the death of General Koos de la Rey, the man without the hat, that immortalized Mkwanazi Siener van Rensburg as the greatest prophet the Afrikaner nation had ever had. On Saturday, July the 11th, 1914, shortly before the start of the First World War, the Siener unexpectedly visited de la Rey on his farm near Lichtenburg. De la Rey was on his way to negotiate with the Union government to try to prevent a rebellion by the Boers opposed to South Africa joining Britain in the war. Siener came to warn de la Rey of a vision he'd had. He implored him not to go to Pretoria. This vision was recorded by de la Rey's daughter, Polly, who was present when Siener spoke to her father. I see a white paper with the numbers 1 and 5 on it. The white paper with the black 15 hangs over Lichtenberg. Then I see you, and you are without your hat. I see night falling. A black cloth of mourning hangs over the town. I see a long wagon pulled by steam. Many steam wagons. I see a commando on horseback arriving from Schweizerreneke. They sleep in the open. It is not war. I see flowers, flowers everywhere.
Oom moet versigtig wees asseblief.
2 months after the Sieners' visit, General Koos de la Rey leaves for Johannesburg on September the 14th. He checks in at the Victoria Hotel. At reception, he collects the key to his room. He is given room 15. On Tuesday evening, September the 15th, he departs with General Bears for a crisis meeting in Potchefstroom. They travel by car. In Lalagte, they run into a roadblock set up by the police to catch the notorious Foster gang. A shot rings out. De la Rey is killed. The Lion of the West is no more. 40 special trains ran to Lichtenberg for his funeral. The commando arrived from Schweizerreneke. The folk mourned the passing of one of the greatest of the old Boer generals. Everything happened just as Siener van Rensburg had prophesied. After de la Rey's death, Siener joined the Boer rebels to protest against the government's decision to invade German West Africa, now Namibia. Again he rides with his people all over the wasteland of the Northern Cape and into German West Africa to meet up and sign an alliance with the Germans. Time and again he saves the lives of the Boer fighters in their struggle against superior government forces. While on commando with the rebel forces of General Kemp, between Kuruman and Olifantsfontein, he tells his friends, I see a red sickle and a hammer in the northern sky. The Russian Revolution came in 1917. Their symbol was the hammer and sickle. After the surrender of the rebels, Siener is jailed with others in the old fort in Johannesburg. The government, under General Jan Smuts, sees him as an instigator of the rebellion. Smuts launches a commission of inquiry into the Sieners' activities during the rebellion. He is found to be innocent. 18 months later, Siener is released and retires to his farm, Wheatkale. From this point onwards, his visions are recorded by his daughter Anna until his death on March the 11th, 1926. The visions speak of a terrifying war to come, the Second World War. He accurately prophesies the rise and fall of the Third Reich and a chilling vision of the Holocaust. December the 24th, 1917. In Western Europe, I see a huge oven. A great fire burns inside it. The flames reach out from within. April the 26th, 1920. In Europe, I see women dressed in black. Their bodies are thin, emaciated. They have a wild look in their eyes. August the 13th, 1918. In Europe, I see a block, and a sharp knife carves the block in two. A herd of blue cattle comes around to the south. On their right, I see a clay wall. Blue was always the Sieners' color for Germany. The Berlin Wall, symbol of a divided Europe, was built in 1961. On November the 21st, 1920, he predicts the building of the Voortrekker Monument, which will serve as a focus for the rise of the Afrikaner nation. I see a multitude of people coming from all directions along the black lines of the land. They gather at a hill near a big city. I see a great banquet at a big house on the hill. Around the house, flags are waving. In the middle are the flags of the republics. I see my people free again. The Voortrekker Monument was inaugurated in 1938. The National Party came to power in 1948. The Republic came in 1961. In an uncanny vision that spans the whole of Afrikaner history, he then sees the fall of the Afrikaners, led by a man who came from Vereniging, the same place where the Boers were forced to sign the humiliating peace treaty with Britain after the Anglo-Boer War.
Wil ek graag hulde bring aan my voorganger.
I see a wagon wheel rolling in from the Eastern Cape. At first it follows a winding road. Then it finds a straight path. It loses a spoke. Then it loses its rim. Slowly it becomes a new wheel. The wheel rolls on to Vereniging, to the petrol factory, and there it stops, topples, and lies still. The mention of a petrol factory is startling in this vision. In Siener's time, cars were few and far between. The oil and petrol from coal complex at Sasol near Vereniging was built in 1950. The rest of the prophecy is explained by scholars as follows. The wagon wheel rolling from the Eastern Cape is the Great Track. It follows a winding path. Then, as the Boer republics are formed, it runs a straight course. The losing of the spokes and rim is symbolic of British intervention, the Anglo-Boer War, and subsequent loss of power by the Afrikaners. The new wheel points to the Afrikaners establishing the Republic in 1961.
Whatever the cost. All reasonable people.
De Klerk was MP for Vereniging when he came to power. His first speech as president was made there. He is the one who finally topples the wheel of the Afrikaners' rule. And then he fades from the scene.
My first public address after my inauguration as state president. I repeat that statement.
Shortly before his death in 1926, the Siener talked about a recurring vision he'd had. I see a small, emaciated black boy rising up out of the earth. I see him grow into a mighty warrior. He rises up to his full stature from the earth. Above his head he lifts his assegai and shield up to the sky. His shadow falls across the whole of our land. This is far into the future. Then I see him vanish in a cloud. Mkwanazi Siener van Rensburg saw world events in the coming millennium in stark detail. These are some of his visions that have a bearing on the times we live in. January the 1st, 1921. In the land of Moshesh, white goats trek southwards. I see a zinc roof house becoming empty. I see shops, but no people. On December the 13th, 1918, he predicts the emergence of the European Economic Union under the leadership of an economically powerful Germany when he says, I see a blue stone turning. It changes into a cannon wheel, which falls and breaks on the ground. The soil it falls upon is cultivated and becomes fruitful. The unfulfilled part of the prophecy reads, in Europe I see only one sisal tree, and the tree turns to flowers. Sisal trees were seen as symbol for foreign governments. Blue was the colour for Germany, just as red was the colour of the enemy. The European Economic Union is the first step to a single European government. April the 4th, 1919. In Europe I see three sickles merge into one. I see the wagons rolling in from north to east. They look like Turkish wagons, but they are new and covered in canvas. Wagons rolling always indicated war. June the 8th, 1919. In Europe I see three troughs filled with dry grass. A Turk sets them on fire. The fire burns fiercely, then it suddenly dies. In 1991, Saddam Hussein attacked three countries, Israel, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait. He set fire to the oil wells. The fires burned fiercely, but were eventually brought under control. The Siener then speaks of another war to come, a war in which Russia slides back into communism and joins China and the Middle East to fight against America and Germany. The war is won by the West, with Germany becoming the leading economic nation on earth. England is all but destroyed in this fight. I see a great war, fast and furious. It will be fought mostly from the skies. I see weapons that we have not even dreamt of. Germs that cause sickness and electric rays that devastate the earth. It is well known that Saddam Hussein's germ warfare capability is still a threat, that Russia is creating a new USSR, and that the Americans have not abandoned their Star Wars program. In these days, says Siener, Africa will fall into anarchy and mass starvation. October the 1st, 1917. In Johannesburg, I see a wood pile about 100 yards in diameter. A table is set. Bowls of cold samp and cold porridge come on the table. I see mealy husks burning. In these days, Siener says, white racism will be on the increase all over the world, especially in Europe. For the Afrikaner nation, it will be a dark time when many forces will be aligned against it. But then, he says, the Afrikaners will rise again and regain their freedom. The nation will take their destiny into their own hands. There will be a great silence before the storm. I see a pail full of blood toppling, falling. And from the pail will rise the Vierkleur flag to fly again over a free nation. When will this happen? When people asked Siener for dates, he simply said, the time and place is known only to the Lord. But there are some indicators. In 1916, he tells his friend, Boy Musman, there will come a time when I will be once again in the news. In those days, I see we are still fighting amongst ourselves. Then it is over, and we will have a black government. It is then that the Afrikaners' final and fiercest struggle will begin. On his deathbed, he said, I see the Vierkleur flying again. It is God's will. You will fight differently from the way we fought. But there will be more of you this time. And then he said something strange. This will come to pass when the ice starts melting.
For decades, pensioners of Transnet and its associated pension funds have alleged that assets were mismanaged, misappropriated or stripped, leaving many retirees in hardship. For example, a court claim indicated that the funds were owed around R17 billion plus interest for the early 2000s alone. The Mail and Guardian. It was also reported that in the 3 years up to 2016, some 13,088 pensioners of the Transnet funds died, leaving behind widows and dependents who receive lower benefits, for example 70% of the pension of the deceased, and who continue to struggle financially. While there are efforts to recover some funds, for example settlement agreements and frozen pensions held by corrupt former executives, the damage to many pensioners and their families, some of whom never received full compensation, remains profound.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to this channel and leave a comment below. Remember, subscribing is completely free and helps support my research and content. As we explore the latest updates on QFS briefs and other news, stay tuned, and I'll see you next time.